Okay, we're going on to match 4 of my recent league. I am unfortunately 1-2 at this point, having won our first match and lost this next 2, and we're going to go on to lose the die roll. We see it's a pretty solid hand here. We've got a Bazaar and a Leyline, and a Petrified Field, just in case our opponent manages to find the turn 1 Strip Mine or Wasteland. Okay, and our opponent's leading on just a volcanic island into Preordain. This tips me towards thinking it's blue-red Delver, just the straight-up Volk as much as anything else. I would normally expect that to be the most commonly come from Delver. And we're just going to play out a Bazaar. End of their turn, we're obviously just going to pitch the Thug, the Icarud, and whatever else we can draw into, so that we can Dredge in response to the Icarud trigger at the beginning of next turn. So our opponent's obviously got a couple of decisions that they're trying to make, whether or not they feel like looking for anything to interact with this or trying to get a threat down. Once again, assuming that they are on Delver. And the Wasteland pretty much seals what we expect them to be on. So we'll go ahead and we'll pitch, salvage Icarud Thug. We're not going to reanimate the Icarud in our next turn, because we're going to want to Dredge with the Thug instead. And unfortunately for our opponent, they're going to get a bit of a nasty surprise when they see the Petrified Field come through. And our opponent really has to get the ball rolling on something. I think they were hoping, for the Wasteland to buy them a lot more time. So now they really need to start getting a very fast clock going, and even that might not be enough. We've got a bit of a slow start ourselves here. We really need our Dakmor salvage to draw us into something. I think we should probably eat an Icarud with an Icarud here. Just to start getting a clock going. Great, and we hit a Thug, so we will now Petrified Field, grab Bazaar, we'll trigger our Bloodghast, and we'll Dredge our Thug and whatever else comes up out of that. So we've managed to get a fair bit of action here from not having dredged very much, which is pretty nice. And even better, while we did whiff on our Whiff on our dredge. We did hit another bazaar to compensate for that. And I think we're going to be fairly close to. I think we're already fairly close to having lethal on board, and with the second bazaar in our hand, that's going to be pretty much good game, I think. We're just going to go ahead and misstep this A-call, and just hope that they don't have the misstep. I don't think it's going to achieve too much if they do, if they can respond. They're just looking for whatever out they can right now. So I'm not sure exactly what it is they're hunting for. I think we can go ahead and eat another thug. Dredge the next one. Play out our bazaar, and I think once we activate this, they're likely to just concede. So I think in this matchup we're probably, so we want the Elishnorn. Ley lines aren't particularly good here. They don't really achieve a huge amount. We're going to want to bring in Ingot Chewers, Serenities, and a couple of Nature's Claims. Yeah, and we've cut an Icarid and a Thug to fit that in. We don't need the Barbarian rings here. They don't play white and they don't play black. So we're not worried about Containment, Priest, or Jailer. I'm not sure whether or not it was correct to keep in the Flame Kinsella. I guess if they do clock kind of fast, so it's probably good to have multiple targets. One to both of which pretty much should close out the game if we get to resolve them. So for the rest of our sideboard options here, I think Wismere isn't going to achieve a huge amount unless they decide to board in ley lines. I wouldn't particularly expect to see ley lines particularly often against Dredge. I just don't think it's broad enough in the format. And obviously the last two Nature's Claims I think could stay in the board. We keep them there for very fast matchups. We're going to have to mull this hand. It's got no Bazaar. We do have interaction and a misstep for Cage. But obviously we just can't keep it. And this hand's great. So we're going to hope they lead on something like Wasteland here. Wasteland Pass. And instead they're going to try to race us with a young Pyromancer, which I think is a risky but also strong if you manage to get it going. So if they've got a fairly stocked hand right now, it can be quite easy to gum up the board with Pyromancer tokens and just use the tokens whenever you need to trade for bridges, which means that then all you have to care about is the actual threats, and it can buy you a fair chunk of time. Okay, so there's the Wasteland. So we're not particularly worried about that. And we can go ahead and pitch. I don't think we should have been pitching the bridge there. I think we can wait on the bridge. Okay, and I think Cage plus Pyromancer might prove to be a real problem for us. We're now going to have to use a Bazaar to go hunting for action. And sometimes action can be quite hard to resolve, so I think the combination of the two is going to put us on a fairly short timeline. So we're hoping to get lucky here and draw exactly Nature's Claim, I think. Okay, and now we're in a lot more trouble because we now need Serenity, which takes a full turn to get going, and we won't be able to cast it straight away either. So we probably should have Bazaar'd in response to the Cage, and we might have been able to misstep Cage. So that was a bit of a misplay on our end. And I feel like it's probably worth playing out the Dakmor Salvage this turn. Because they won't Wasteland Dakmor Salvage. Because we can just redraw it whenever we want. And it means we'll have mana up for Serenity. And I have a feeling this might leave us. So what does this bring us down to? 8. We play Serenity, take 4, go to 4. So if they've got something like a Snapcaster in hand, we lose no matter what. Okay, and I think that's actually game right there. So I think we're fine with our sideboard plan. We have, I think, enough interaction in general. Our opponent is probably bringing in around 6 pieces. We have a sweeper for it. We have missteps for interaction. And Engachures and Nature's Claims, obviously. So I don't think we're terribly... I don't think we need to stock up any more than we already have. And at least this time we're going to get to be on the play. So hopefully that means we'll be able to get a Bazaar going before they... it should mean that we're going to be able to get a Bazaar going before they can interact with us very well. And hopefully they're going to try for a Pyromancer plan again. And so opponents obviously taking their time deciding whether or not they want to change sideboard. Okay, so we have to mull this hand. And we have to mull this hand. So this is going to be one of those situations where we're really missing serum powder. So unfortunately, while we do get to, have some game in some other areas by being able to just jam it, a ley line along with a Bazaar, we're missing out by having much worse mulligans. And we're going to go ahead and we'll keep this. This has the ability to cast Serenity as well as Serenity and as well as Bazaar. So this hand can be a little difficult because we have a couple of a slightly complicated decision to make here. We need to keep enough lands. Oh no, actually this is completely fine. So if we need to, we can pitch the Dakmor Salvage and draw it for turn to play out a land. Just to make sure that we have Serenity mana up. So our opponents mulled 5 and are clearly wondering whether or not they go lower, which is good for us. Oh no, okay, so they've gone to 5 and scryed to the bottom. Just like we did, however, I think they're in a worse position by scrying to the bottom. Okay, they've obviously got a bit of a slow hand again. Although I guess Lotus will probably speed it up. So he's clearly hunting right now to find a cage. Okay, and I guess he's going to merchant scroll for Ancestral here. Okay, so now we've got a misstep, which is good for us, but is also going to give us a little bit of an awkward decision here. I think we should have done this in our draw step, because we have to pitch misstep now. And we probably should have therapied to take the Ancestral there as well. So there's a couple of misplays that we've made right in that short segment right there. So what we could have done is we literally could have used Bloodghast to therapy the Ancestral. We'd get the Bloodghast back next turn. And we could have kept the misstep for the Ancestral as well. So we've just made quite a few errors. He's going to Wasteland the Bazaar. That's okay. And now we're going to need to therapy ourselves to pitch the Grave Troll. So we should, okay. So we should have therapied ourselves using Bloodghast, then played the Mana Confluence to bring the Bloodghast back, leaving us with 4 power on board. So this is overall a really badly played game. And because of it, we're now going to get punished by Young Pyromancer. So we're going to offer up a trade. We know he's not going to take it. Bloodghast can't block anyway. I don't think we want to play Serenity right here. So what Serenity played here does is it means that he can't play any monsters, he can't play Cage, he can't. It buys us a turn where he can't do anything. But it also doesn't push forward our game plan at all. Okay, now he's got a second young Pyro. We're probably going to lose in about 3 turns, I reckon. Just because he's going to get a very fast clock going. He's going to go wide, and unless we draw exactly Bizarre and more or less exactly right now, we're not going to be able to keep up. So I think... So we've finally decided to go ahead in therapy, but it's far too late. So we should probably go ahead and play out the Bloodghast here, just because it's there. Yeah, this is still just too little too late. So I feel like if he can bolt the zombie and bash for 8, that means that we very likely lose next turn. Okay, so we'll take a Pyromancer off him, which will slow him down. No, and he just drops another. And from here, I just don't think there's anything we can do to get the game going. So we're going to go to 3 next turn. And I don't think we have any live draws after that. So all in all, this game has been lost by us because we played it pretty badly. We missed multiple lines to do with Bloodghast triggers and therapies, and just basically let him run away with the game. So hey, look, we've got an ingot chewer for the Grafticus cage, but